We're with Paul Barnard, Executive Financial Planner at Consolidated Financial Planning this evening, talking about savings. Now, that lovely story about the four-portioned piggy bank.
Yes.
Do we as South Africans have a culture of saving?
Unfortunately not. Unfortunately not. We had Pravin Gordhan, our Minister of Finance, released some stats last week, and our savings ratios are 16% of GDP, which means absolutely nothing to anybody listening, I'm sure.
Yeah,
but if we think 16% of GDP in South Africa, now you would think the higher the percentage, the better. Now, if we look at our peers in various the kind of economies we're trying to keep up with, the BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and so on, China's ratio is 52% of their gross domestic product. Their savings ratio is 52%.
Wow.
We are 16%. India is 37%. Russia is 22%. So as a nation, we are dismally far behind other nations. And only 1 in 20 of South Africans will be able to retire and afford to maintain their lifestyle because we just don't save enough during our working years.
Those are scary statistics.
1 in 20.
Why? Okay, I don't want you to be a psychologist now, but why is it that we don't save? Because surely we should, surely we must be able to see the future coming at us.
I think it's that immediate gratification, and more is nog 'n dag. It's delaying the investment mentality. There's that lovely story of the brother and the sister. Let's call them Jeremy and Sue. And Sue starts putting away 20,000 Rand a year for 20 years, and she invests it at 10%. After 20 years, she stops her investing, and she just lets it lie there for another 5 years. After 25 years since she started investing, she's put away 400,000 Rand. That is now worth 2 million Rand. 20 years of 20,000 Rand a year, she stops and lets it lie there for 5 years. She can now retire on 2 million Rand. Her brother, Jeremy, he didn't start saving at age 20 or 30 when she started. He started 5 years later.
Okay.
So he started 5 years later because he didn't see the necessary to start so early. He also saved for 20 years, also put away 400,000 Rand. They both then retired at the same age. He started 5 years later.
Right.
The value of his 400,000 Rand is 1.3 million.
And hers is 2.
And hers is 2 million. And they invested exactly the same amount of money. It's just that when she stopped saving, her money was earning money for her while she was sleeping, which is the compound interest magic.
It comes back to that,
Yeah. So the earlier you start, the better. That's the moral of the story. And unfortunately, South Africans, they do not start early enough. We're living longer. In Europe now, they're pushing out retirement ages to age 70. People wanting to retire at age 55 have got to have a huge amount of money to be able to retire financially independent. So people are not starting young enough by putting away at least 15% of their earnings every month. And when they change jobs, the old story, okay, let's dip into my retirement savings and pay off my bond or buy my car or whatever.
Yeah. The instant gratification thing is an important factor here.
Yeah.
Our producer, during the break, Natasha, jumped into the studio and she had just Googled what we were talking about with instant gratification.
Yes.
Evidently, there was the story that came out last week about the Scottish couple that won the Euro Millions. I don't know, it was something, 160 million euros. You, me, everyone watching the show together probably will not earn that in our lifetime.
In fact, they are now 5 places ahead of the Beckhams in terms of the
right.
wealthiest Britons.
Yes, and they were both unemployed.
Yes.
But Natasha came running in here and said, do you know that lotto winners usually in 10 years use up every single cent, 90% of them.
Yeah.
It's a scary statistic because suddenly you get all this money and it just goes. Phew.
But Jeremy, it's not just lotto winners. I think it's generally people, they just don't have a plan. They don't have a financial plan in place. And I'm not sitting here punting financial planning, but the majority of people do not really understand that whole issue of the time value of money and what it's going to mean if I put away some money now, when do I want to retire? It's just not having, the lotto winners, fine, blow the money, but at least have a plan in place and have somebody helping you out there. And this immediate gratification is just is going to be the demise of many, many people. You know if you're going to, sorry, yes?
No.
I say you know that you are going to be the victim of immediate gratification if you cast your mind back and you pretend you're a 4-year-old child and imagine that you sit in a classroom and a researcher comes into the classroom and he puts a little marshmallow down in front of all the 4-year-old children.
You've told this story before, yes,
yeah.
But refresh my memory, because this actually happened.
This has actually happened. A little marshmallow in front of, well, a marshmallow in front of each of the children, and the researcher said, "I'm just going to step out for 15 minutes, go down the hall. I've got to do something. When I come back in 15 minutes' time, those of you who still have the marshmallow in front of you, I'll give you another one. You can eat the marshmallow if you want, but you'll get another one when I come back in 15 minutes, it's still there." Came back in 15 minutes. 2/3 of the children had eaten the marshmallow. Immediate gratification. They weren't prepared to wait for the reward of the second marshmallow. Okay. 1/3 got up, wandered around the room, singing and dancing, listening at the door for the guy to come back, smelt the marshmallow, but they didn't eat it. The 2/3 of the immediate gratification, a psychologist 14 years later did a follow-up study. And those kids now at 18 years old, the 2/3 with the immediate gratification, the vast majority of those were not successful at school. Further follow-up studies, financially were not successful, dropped out of university. Of the 1/3 who waited for the marshmallow, the second marshmallow, were able to delay gratification, the vast majority were far more successful, not only in financial but also personal life and their careers.
It's a fascinating bit of research. Eh?
So think about those marshmallows in your life, that immediate gratification, and say, should I be putting this 100 Rand into this immediate gratification, or perhaps investing?
Now, when you talk about investing, just to come back to what you were saying before the break as well, it's anything that's earning you money above the inflation rate.
Yes. Yeah.
What would you advise people who are finding it difficult to save to do? What's the easiest way of getting into saving and creating a culture within your life of saving?
2 things. One is a budget, and be very honest with yourself. I mean, the idea of a budget is really to identify where all the money's going. So understand where you're spending your money, because a lot of people don't really know. They say, I haven't got anything to spend. But we had somebody, I was chatting to somebody the other day, and we went through his personal budget and said, for the next 4 weeks, just keep a record of exactly where everything's going, because we need to free up some money here. He was spending just under 200 Rand on tipping the parking attendants in the month. And this is somebody who couldn't save. 200 Rand, that's 2,500 Rand over the year on tipping parking attendants. So step number 1 is know where all your money's going. And
are people scared of sitting down and drawing up a budget?
They are.
I suppose
even more scared of sharing that with their partner.
Yeah, I suppose so, because it's a reflection of yourself and your lifestyle, and
it identifies some weaknesses. But having done it, you can identify. You can say, right, well, I don't need to cut back all my fun and games and my vices, whatever they may be.
Yeah.
But let's just balance it out a bit. It's a little bit imbalanced, my budget. So let's just say, look, if I carry on like this, get hold of a decent financial advisor if you can't do it yourself, and sit down and say, right, if I carry on the way I am, when I'm 60, how much money am I going to have to call myself financially independent or retire? And we do some projections, and you'll say, well, carrying on like this, you're going to have to dramatically drop your lifestyle. You'll be one of the 19 out of 20 people who cannot afford to maintain your lifestyle. So all you need is some little tweaks here and there. Invest it wisely. Don't put all your money into a conservative money market account. If you're investing for the long term, even if you're 40, 50 years old, you've got a long way ahead. You can still invest in shares and be fairly aggressive in your investments, as long as you're getting good financial advice.
Ideally, what percentage of your income should you be saving?
Great question. you really should start at the end. I will answer the question. You really should start at the end and say, where do I want to get to?
Yeah.
How much money do I want in 30 years' time? And let's work our way backwards and say, right, now what do I have to put away in order to get there?
Okay.
But assuming we're starting at an early age, as soon as you start working and you're putting away money for your retirement, together with your employer, if between the two of you, you're putting away 15% of your pensionable income, and you're doing that for at least 35 years, you should have enough money to buy yourself a decent pension.
So that's just thumbs up, let's work on that number.
15%, if you've done that for 35 years and it's been invested properly, you should be okay.
Okay, lessons I've got out of here. A, pay off your debt.
Yes.
B, draw up a budget. C, see where or what lifestyle you want to have in your retirement years, and then see how much money you have to put away to get there.
Yeah, exactly right.
That's why I love having you in the studio, because it's so simple.